What is it now, Kroger? Don't you know I'm busy?
Right. Sorry, Wix.
Well, get on with it then, you nitwit. You're slower than a turtwig, I swear.
Yeah, okay, so, how do I put this?
You are testing my patience, Kroger.
You know those Pokemon the boss, said he wanted for the, plan thing?
Don't tell me.
No, we found them. We caught them all, too.
Ah, good. Well then, for once in your life, you and your team have not been a complete failure. I'm pleasantly surprised.
About that.
Hmm,
We kinda ran into some trouble, bringing the Pokemon back to the hideout.
go on.
We ran into her.
Ruby, that former champion's brat. Hang on. Don't you dare tell me.
You don't get it, Wix. She was crazy strong. She's got no right being that powerful for a kid her age. She really is a former champion's daughter. What if...
Shut up, you fool. I don't care for your excuses. My Lord Art himself may well forgive you out of the kindness of his heart. I know that the other commanders will not be happy either. You got your butts whooped by a child, for crying out loud.
But she...
I told you to shut it, Kroger. Now tell me, when will you be able to heal up and deliver the Pokemon that Lord Art requested? Kroger.
We couldn't stop her from confiscating them. She was too powerful.
You mean to tell me that you not only lost to a child, but you stole the Pokemon that Lord Art specifically requested you to gather?
Well,
I suggest that you either find more of those special Pokemon that Lord Art entrusted you with gathering, or go and steal back the ones that the former champion's brat stole from you, you useless dolt. Unlike you, I am busy not failing my given assignment, and do not have any more time to waste on your pathetic antics.
Oh, the boss is gonna kill me for this.
Hello everyone, Ollie here, and today I am very excited to announce the beginning of a brand new Pokemon-themed series here on the channel.
The Kaiba video's nearly done, I swear.
So, if I've managed to get this video edited in time, it should be releasing on Pokemon Day. If so, happy Pokemon Day. But if I missed the upload, or you're watching in the future, happy not Pokemon Day, I guess. Anyway, in this series, I'm going to be taking you on a deep dive into a Pokemon fan game concept that I've had for a while now. We'll explore both the region, the Pokemon, the evil team that you'll have to face, regional gimmicks, and everything in between. However, for this first episode, I'm just here to whet your appetites by showing off the 3 starter Pokemon evolution lines that you'll be able to choose from when starting your adventure here in the region of Heian. What part of the world is Heian based on? All of it! No, but in all seriousness, the region explores the broader idea of land bridges and continental shifts and all of that sort of stuff. So the region is less themed around one specific part of the world, and more so how those different parts of the world were once connected and what that meant for the terrain and wildlife of those places. But if you don't like the fact that it's so broad and not based on a specific part of the world, just think of it as Laurasia and Gondwana, and that should solve the problem. Anyway, at the start of the game, you and a pair of your childhood friends / rivals stumble across a set of 3 mysterious Pokeballs that you find just abandoned out in the wilderness. No fancy labs or professors giving you your Pokemon here. Checking inside, you meet your options for the starter Pokemon, and each of you get to keep one of them as you decide there and then to become powerful Pokemon trainers. I'll explain the plan for the story better in a future entry of this series, but for now, you only really need the basic stuff. And let's just get into what you're all here for, which is the starter Pokemon themselves. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and consider donating to my PayPal with a link in the description, because I'm not made of money and I need funding if you want this series to continue at a reasonable pace. Also, big thank you to my buddies DEXR and Water Types Forever. I'll leave a link to their socials in the description as well. DEXR is the artist I worked with, and Water helped me to figure out some level of game balance for the Pokemon you're about to see. Also, if this is releasing on Pokemon Day, go check out my buddy Ethan's upload, where me, him, and some other friends went and watched the Pokemon Direct together, and had some fun. So, without further ado, let's get right into it, and meet the starters. It's hero time! First of all, meet the Fire and Bug type starter Pokemon, Embug. Embug's name is derived from the words ember, embed, and bug, though you could probably guess that. In terms of its design, it's just based on your generic beetle larva with some elements of cuteness thrown in to make it a bit more likable, because most starter Pokemon tend to start out pretty cute. Its dex entry reads, "The timid larva Pokemon. Soft-bodied and skittish, Embug are well documented as one of the weakest Pokemon in any ecosystem's food chain, as they are both slow-moving and packed full of minerals that many Steel-type Pokemon rely on to keep their metallic exteriors strong and healthy. It is said that, in ancient times, early humans used the small mineral deposits that grow from Embug's back as a tool to carve pictures into sturdy cave walls. Embug can have the ability Blaze or the hidden ability Runaway. Blaze boosts the power of Fire-type moves when Embug is at low health, and Runaway allows you to escape any wild Pokemon battle successfully. I imagine Embug can learn moves like String Shot and Harden alongside the typical Fire-type moves like Ember and Incinerate and stuff like that. There's not really much to say about Embug itself, so we'll have to move on to our next starter Pokemon, the Water-type Mousop. This little cutie's name comes from the words mouse, sop, as in to be sopping wet, and also op because this thing is a lovable little nuisance. In terms of its design, it's just a dormouse with little webbed feet that look like flippers and a helmet made out of a bubble, similar to those diving spiders that Dewpider and Araquanid are based on. There was also a level of inspiration taken from the fact that some rodents like to hang out in wet places like sewers a lot, so that was another aspect of why the water-type starter is a mouse. Its dex entry reads, "The Rodent Diver Pokemon. Often found playing peacefully in ponds and lazy streams, Mousop are adventurous little Pokemon that love to explore the shallow depths of pools, seeking shiny pebbles and other assorted oddities that people accidentally drop into the water. One particularly greedy Mousop became quite popular in the not-so-distant past for stealing the coins that a town's residents would throw into a wishing well fountain. The town built a small statue of the Pokemon to celebrate the charming little thief. It then stole that too. Mousop can have the ability Torrent or the hidden ability Water Bubble. Torrent just does the same thing as Blaze but with water instead of fire, and Water Bubble reduces the damage dealt by oncoming fire-type attacks by half, and doubles the power of the user's water-type moves, meaning that it's even more resistant to fire-type moves, and it's got even more powerful water-type moves. Mousop can learn your typical Bubble, Bubble Beam, Water Gun, Bite, Hyper Fang, and that sort of move pool. Its next evolution has more to say in that regard, but before we can talk more about that, let's meet our final first stage starter, the Grass-type Hoak. Hoak's name comes from the words Hoarfrost, Croak, Oak, like the tree, and Hope. Hoak's design is based on a tree frog, but literally taking the tree aspect of a tree frog to the nth degree. And it's got chubby little cheek pouches and a big happy grin. He's so cute. This goober gives me the same vibes as a Mudkip for some reason. I can't quite figure out why. It has a leaf tail that's reminiscent of a tadpole's tail, and its webbed feet are shaped like lily pads. Its dex entry reads, "The Tree Frog Pokemon. Unlike other frog-like Pokemon, Hoak do not start their lives in a tadpole stage, but rather emerge as fully fledged frogs. It is for this reason that they are suspected to be a distant relative of the Froakie of the Kalos region, who possibly migrated here back in a time where Kalos and Heian were connected via a land bridge that no longer exists. Regardless of what they are or where they came from, Hoak possess a cheerful and well-meaning demeanor that makes them a popular first Pokemon for children and fledgling trainers alike. In terms of abilities, Hoak can have Overgrowth, which is basically just Blaze or Torrent but with grass-type moves instead of water and fire moves. And, as a hidden ability, Hoak can have Sap Sipper, which increases a Pokemon's attack stat by one stage if it's hit by a grass-type move. Hoak can learn moves like Leafage, Razor Leaf, Mist, Lick, Bind, that sort of stuff. But now that we've met all three of our first stages, it's time to evolve them into their second forms. First up, Embug evolves into Scaraburn. Scaraburn is a Fire and Steel type Pokemon, whose name derived from Scarab, Burn, and Urn. Scaraburn is based on Beetle Pupa, Scarab Beetles, Burial Urns, which people often put ash in, Lava Lamps, and Furnaces. Its dex entry reads, "The Solid Pupa Pokemon. By coating its soft body in a sturdy film of cooled liquid metal, Scaraburn is able to protect itself from even some of the most fierce and predatory Pokemon's attacks. It is said that during this stage of their life cycle, a Scarabern's innards are melted down from within and molded into a new, stronger body that it will use once it evolves again. Until that time comes, however, Scaraburn stay motionless and inactive. Now that it's evolved from Embug, Scaraburn can learn moves like Iron Head, Lava Plume, Fire Punch, Iron Defense, Rollout, Gyro Ball, and so on. A much more diverse move pool, and while it can still learn some Bug-type moves like Bug Buzz and Infestation, it doesn't really benefit from those moves like it used to due to no longer being a Bug-type, therefore losing Bug-type Stab. Like Embug, Scaraburn retains the primary ability Blaze, but now instead of having Runaway as its hidden ability, it has Marvel Scale, which grants the user a 50% defense stat boost when inflicted with a burn, paralysis, poisoning, freeze, or sleep. The Embug evolution line as a whole was meant to resemble the typical bug-type Pokemon evolution trend that you see in Pokemon games, but we'll discuss what type of final form Scaraburn has after we've visited our next two Pokemon. Next, Mousop evolves into Retrieve, which is now a Water and Dark-type Pokemon. Retrieve's name comes from Rat, Retrieve, Thief, and Reef. In terms of design, Retrieve is inspired more directly by sewer rats. It's got more advanced scuba gear as opposed to the simple bubble its previous form wore, it has a Sharpedo-shaped lure on the tip of its tail, and it's got those stereotypical mean eyes that evil Pokemon tend to have. On that note, actually, the reason it gains the dark or evil type is in reference to the fact that people tend to see mice as something very pleasant and cute, and they don't really feel that way about rats. So once it evolves from a mouse to a rat, it gains the dark type due to the negative perception of the animal it's based on, though its nature and dex entry also play a part in that. Speaking of which, its dex entry reads, the Rodent Diver Pokemon. Where a Mousop's antics are seen as endearing and cute, a Retrieve is seen as a nuisance and a pest. With a greedy disposition and an eye for even greater loot, Retrieve have moved from shallow pools and ponds to the beaches of the region, where they paddle through the shallows of the sea in search of buried treasure that has washed ashore. Retrieve can learn moves like Dive, Aqua Ring, Sucker Punch, Crunch, Thief, Snatch, Fling, and so on. It's got a much wider move pool than its first form, with most of those moves being ones that allow the user to swap or take another Pokemon's item, or just perform some other form of shady deed. Retrieve retains both the same primary and hidden ability as its previous form. Next up, our final second stage Pokemon here, Hoak evolves into Frogid, a Grass and Ice-type Pokemon. Now, Grass and Ice is not a very good typing defensively, but bear with me because when we get to its final evolution, there is something to help level the playing field here. Frogid's name comes from the word frog and frigid, but not only frigid in the sense of a cold temperature, but also frigid in the sense of a cold or cruel personality, which is the other definition of frigid. In terms of design, Frogid is based on your typical delinquent or thug, with a mohawk made of leaves, a little reed in its mouth akin to the cigarettes that thugs often smoke, a frozen branch that it carries around and wields like a spiked bat weapon. Its body has a pattern on it that makes it look like it has a leather jacket on, and it's just got that general tough guy look to it. That said, in sharp contrast to this more sinister design inspiration, it's also based on Kermit the Frog, because why not? Its third and final point of origin is actually a special phenomenon, where frogs get frozen in ice during the winter and are just trapped there until the ice melts and they thaw out. It's honestly very depressing, but it was a super interesting thing to learn about, and since you often see plants frozen over and covered in snow, it felt fun to mix those two components together when creating this Pokemon's design. Frozen frog, frozen plants, why not both? Frogid's dex entry reads, the Ice Frog Pokemon. Frogid are known to have polarizing personalities, with those raised by loving trainers being overprotective, and those raised by unkind trainers becoming aggressive. When their trainers abandon them due to their favourite Hoak suddenly becoming incredibly hard to manage, Frogid come together to form gangs, looking out for one another in the face of a world where their behaviours often cause them to be isolated. Now wielding its fancy Ice Club, Frogid can learn moves like Double Hit, Branch Poke, Ice Shard, Frost Breath, Bounce, and so on. Retaining Overgrowth as its primary ability, Frogid's hidden ability is now Snow Body, which allows it to heal 1/16 of its health at the end of each turn if it's hailing or snowing. Honestly, this entire evolution line is my absolute favourite of the three, but before we meet the final Pokemon in this line, we need to loop back around one last time. For the final time, Scaraburn evolves into Atlaseer. Retaining the Fire and Steel typing of its previous form, Atlas's name is derived from the word Atlas, meaning planet, but also in reference to the Atlas beetle, sear as in to burn something, and also sear as in to see something. Atlas's design is super duper fun, being based on top-heavy superheroes like Armadillo, All Might, and Superman, with an eye pattern that resembles a classic superhero mask and a metal body with a color scheme that matches that of Iron Man, as well as rocket thruster arms because it's just too cool not to. The Iron Man references are also why this Pokemon is called the Marvelous Pokemon and why it has Marvel Scale as its hidden ability, as a reference to Marvel Comics. Atlas's Dex entry reads, the Marvelous Pokemon. Soaring through the skies in search of those in need, Atlaseer is a Pokemon beloved by many. Wielding mighty rocket-powered punches that can blast a clean hole through an oil tanker's hull, and protected by a metallic exoskeleton stronger than diamond, cruel people and Pokemon alike live in fear of facing justice at an Atlaseer's hands. It is often said that Atlaseer cooperate with Absol to prevent potential calamities from occurring in the region, though this has little scientific backing. Now, instead of just listing off some extra random moves that Atlaseer can learn now that it's fully evolved, let's instead talk specifically about its new signature move, Supernova Slam. Supernova Slam is a physical move that not only deals incredible fire-type damage, but it deals more damage the lower the user's health is, and has an increasingly higher chance of burning the target the lower that the user's health is, as a reference to how superheroes always manage to push past their limits and reach even greater heights when put under pressure. Combined with a move like Belly Drum and maybe an item that afflicts the user with poison to both trigger their hidden ability and lower their HP even more every turn, Supernova Slam can become an absolutely devastating power to wield. Next, Retrieve evolves into Submarodent. Now I know what you're thinking. Why the hell did a rodent turn into a whale? Well, I'll get back to you on that, but first let's break down the name. Obviously, the name is derived from submarine and rodent, but also ma, which is to spoil or taint something, which fits the dark type. Now, to answer your burning question about this Pokemon's design, fun fact, whales actually evolved from a rodent-like animal called the Pachycetus, and so not only does Retrieve evolve from a rodent into a cetacean, aka a whale, in reference to that, but also it evolves from a scuba diver into a literal submarine. It's a submarine whale. Is this stupid? Yes. Do I care? No. Also, its eyes are yellow now because they act as searchlights, and the flippers on the end of its tail are meant to represent the top part of a submarine. Pretty cool, right? Its Dex entry reads, the Rodent Diver Pokemon. Lurking deep within the blackest depths of the region's seas, Submarodent roams in search of sunken shipwrecks and submarines, hoping to scavenge and hoard the remains of the wreckage. Some Submarodent take this sinister behavior to the extreme, actively seeking out ships and submarines that have not yet sank in order to crash into them and doom their crews to a watery grave. One sailor who survived such an encounter claims that the Submarodent who attacked his crew was particularly large and violent, and instead of being blue or pink like other Submarodent are known to be, this one was supposedly yellow. Retaining the same water and dark typing as its previous form, let's discuss Submarodent's new signature move, Battleship Buster. Battleship Buster is a move that deals either special or physical damage based on whichever one would deal more damage to the opponent, and on top of that, it causes the opponent's speed stat to drop harshly, meaning that they might just become slow enough for Submarodent to outspeed them and finish them off before they can finish it off first. Same as its previous two forms, Submarodent has the abilities Torrent and Water Bubble. All in all, a weird and quirky little evolution line with some dark aspects and some goofy aspects. Now, about that yellow Submarodent. Finally, our last Pokemon of the day, and my absolute favourite of the entire bunch, Frogid evolves into Todespair. Remaining as a grass ice type, Todespair's name comes from the words toad, despair, and taxpayer. Yes, he is a depressed salaryman now. That is the joke. But aside from being a depressed salaryman, who has grown old and wasted his life away, but has become quite the gentleman in his old age, Todespair's head leaves are also meant to represent the horns of the bullfrog and the prehistoric Beelzebufo, its cheek pouches have become thin and rigid, becoming almost like a collar, and its frozen branch weapon has been whittled down and reduced to nothing more than a walking cane. Oh, and he's got some icicle cheek spikes to reference the bone spikes that Otten frogs have. Its Dex entry reads, the Ice Frog Pokemon. Having spent countless seasons apart from their trainers, Frogid who come to terms with the circumstances of their abandonment are known to evolve into Todespair. No longer burdened by a volatile personality and no longer needing the security of a gang to feel accepted, Todespayer dig vast burrow networks deep underground, which they decorate with decadent displays of various frozen preserved fruits and vegetables. When hungry Pokemon miss the opportunity to hibernate in the wintertime, Todespayer will happily welcome them into their burrows until the season passes, regaling their visitors with the wisdom they accumulated over their long lives and warming up some of the frozen food to fill their bellies. And now to address Todespayer's own unique signature move. This one had to be pretty potent in order to make sure that the grass-ice typing wouldn't just make the Pokemon super frail and useless. So behold, Hibernation Help Out. Now this move sounds pretty nice and tame compared to the others, but this is what it does. Not only does it do a lot of grass-type damage, but it also sets up Leech Seed on your opponent and changes their ability to Truant, which, may I remind you, is the ability that means your Pokemon can only use a move every other turn. This means you can essentially set up the Hail or Snow and use Hibernation Help Out to heal from both Snow Body and the Leech Seed, but every other turn when your opponent is just lazing around due to Truant, you can just use a move like Giga Drain or Ice Beam to take more health from them or try to freeze them solid and restrict their opportunities even more. This may sound too OP, and it probably is, but at the same time, switching out your Pokemon would revert the ability back to normal and remove the Leech Seed effect, so effectively a simple switch out can just reduce this move to being nothing but a decently powerful Grass-type attack. But if your opponent is too stubborn to switch out, or they're one of the low-tier trainer AIs you can encounter in the game, hey, you'll be able to benefit pretty nicely off this move. But with all of that said, there you have it! That's our 3 starter Pokemon evolution lines all completed. However, we're not quite done yet. You know how every Pokemon game starter trio has a connecting theme? Like how Gen 1 starters are all common household pets, Gen 2 starters are references to things from prehistoric times, and so on? Believe it or not, these 3 do have a connecting theme as well, that being growing up. Let me explain. Embug's evolution through line is the classic, when I grow up, I want to be a superhero trope. You know, the kid who dreams big, but in this case they actually achieve the goal. The best ending anyone could really hope for. Mousop's evolution through line represents how neglectful parenting or imprinting false ideals on your child could have negative impacts. In this case, encouraging a child's habit of stealing and just seeing it as a cute little quirk of theirs until it eventually becomes second nature to them, and they don't see anything wrong with it anymore. The type of person born from a bad environment to the point that it literally changes them and who they are, made manifest in the form of a Pokemon. And finally, Hoak's evolution through line is a more bittersweet case. Reality. Wanting to be a superhero or wanting to achieve some grand goal, but being crushed by the weight of the world and losing that spark, only to hopefully find peace and comfort in the end. So, in all, the starter Pokemon of the Heian region represent childlike wonder, neglectful parenting, and accepting reality. This theme seems a bit dark, and perhaps it is, but I think it's an interesting dynamic to explore through a trio of starter Pokemon. A little bit more of a mature topic for longtime fans of Pokemon who themselves have grown up and maybe can relate. But anyway, that's all that I have to say for today. Again, please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, consider donating to my PayPal with the link in the description so that I can make more videos like this. Check out my friends who helped make this video possible, and a big thank you to my channel members, you guys are the best. But until next time everyone, I suppose I should leave you with one last bit of information about this project. The name of the project is Pokemon Sonar and Shine.